Hi everyone, this is Prashant, and I am again with a new series called Objective Education. In this series, I'm going to teach you about the study skills and a briefly review about what is education. So, let's start. So, objective education. What does it mean to be objective? Objective means it's reality oriented, it's focused on increasing your rational capability, and that's the whole purpose of education to develop your mind. So, we are going to start with the two basics of education, learning and teaching. And obviously, learning precedes teaching logically because you can only teach what you have learned. And to teach inductively, you should be able to learn inductively. That's why your teachers don't know how to teach because they didn't learn properly from other teachers and also they didn't did any research by themselves. So to teach inductively, you have to learn inductively. Okay, makes logical sense so far. And now we are going to come out what do we study. Okay, what we study is our research findings of the researchers, what kind of concepts and theories they come up with, how do they come up with. Oh, they had a particular method of thinking and action, and this led the researcher to form new discoveries, ideas, or do new inventions. So let's start with a subject. Okay, in a subject, there are multiple researchers that have a shared similarity that they are focusing on certain part of reality, and each researcher did a certain discovery at different points of time in the history. Okay, so the blue dots represent the researcher and their contribution, and the black line represents the timeline. From left is past, and to the right, that is future. So it's a continuous whole. Okay. Uh, Similarly, within a subject, there might be multiple researchers. Like each subject has a series of researchers. Similarly, within a particular subject, there might be multiple researchers. Like in psychology, there is Freud, there is Watson, there is Beck. So all of these are different researchers in the subject of psychology. Then we start with within a subject, there might be multiple researchers that focus on different topics, like uh, Robert Alice or Aaron Beck. They focus on the cognitive school. Meanwhile, the Watson or Skinner or Tolman, they belong to the behaviorist school. So on those two different topics, we have different researchers. Okay. Now, there might be different theories on same uh, topic basically. So within a topic, there might be different theories. For example, in psychodynamics, there are different perspectives. For like there is Freudian psychodynamics, then there is Elder Jungian and stuff like that. So they might have different ways of perceiving the same thing. Okay, and they came up with the different theories. Cool. Now, within a subject, one researcher might cause differentiation. For example, in behaviorism, Tolman and Bandura caused differentiation that led to the development of cognitive school of thought, right? So, and it might be a possibility that there might be integrations between different fields. For example, between psychology and pharmacology, we get psychopharmacology, that is using medicine to cure mental disorders. Okay, there might be other fields that you might be aware of. For example, economics and behavioral science, and combining them, we get behavioral economics, the behavior of people in marketplaces. So we can get new fields by combining different theories and different discoveries. Cool. So let's come up to our next topic, that is inductive learning. So how does a person learn inductively? Okay, to study inductively, we first have to go to the history of the subject. Okay, which researcher did what and when, and from then on we try to differentiate them and try to find their logic. When we are teaching or learning a subject, logic takes primacy over history because history may have haphazard way of what you call it, presenting the topics. For example, one researcher may belong to the psychodynamic school, other belongs to Gestalt, the next one chronologically belongs to cognitive. So it's haphazard. So we have to logically divide, like this belongs to Gestalt, this belongs to psychodynamics, and stuff like that. And then we have to arrange them historically afterwards. So logic over history. We start with history, but then we give preference to logic when it comes to systematically arranging the topics. Cool. So what is the present situation in academia right now? The present situation is we have a textbook, and the best it can offer is it may give us advanced theories on conclusions of the researchers, the formulas, without actually giving any form of inductive development, like how did they develop, what was the original finding the researchers did, and that is not possible uh, to give in a textbook at all. So that's why you require teachers. But so far, there are less inductively written textbooks. Textbooks' main purpose is to give a summarized form of advanced conclusions uh, by different researchers in a given field. That's the purpose of a textbook. Okay. Now, if you are lucky, you might some textbook that are greatly written that have some form of historical background, research studies, and stuff like that. And for that, uh, I give you a criteria. In that criteria, you should learn how to pick out good textbooks. Why? Because inputs determine outputs. Okay, that's logical. Similarly, good books determine what is your understanding of the subject, and you require a certain form of study skills that comes under your process that I'm going to cover in the next few videos. So what is the criteria of selecting a good textbook? You should at least have the top four, that is clarity or logical unity. That is, the author should know what he's talking about. He should present an argument, that is premises and conclusion. He should give a derivations of his formula, the observations he did, stuff like that. If those are mentioned, that's good. Experiment and references given in a textbooks are great. Examples, definitions. Okay, these are the top four. If they have diagrams, that is well and good. That is available. History, going into the brief history of like which researcher did what, when, in what context is great. Application, I think these are given like about what is the current usage of their theory, how is that theory applied into different fields or inventions. Okay, and philosophical context is kind of critically evaluating a theory like on philosophical premises. Is it correct? Is it not correct? Is it valid? How is it valid? So we go into those types of questions basically. And now we are gonna go and cover the three levels of learning. Basically, there are three levels of learning. The primary and the first one is induction, followed by deduction, and then evaluation. So, what are these levels? So, for induction, basically, induction means you observe and you form a generalization about particular form of instances. For example, you observe a swan, and then you can form, okay, swan can float on water. A swan is a form of bird, it lays eggs and stuff like that. So you are kind of forming generalization like all swans lay eggs based on your observation. But in this scenario, we have a textbook, and how do we form induction from a textbook? We have to go into the history. If there are historical references given in the particular field, that's are good. Otherwise, you have to go to the history book and find out which are the main researchers and their researches. And then from a history book, you can go directly to the original findings of the researchers. Like, okay, this person did this work, and this is his work, and then you can just refer it to create your own content or learn how they did actually on hands approach on how did they discovered their concepts or come up with their own theory. So you have to read their original books for that. So yeah, you go from textbook to history to original works for depth. Basically, you are reading these for depth. So textbook gives you the least amount of information or depth. History books give you a little bit more. Original works definitely give you the essentials. Okay, now deduction. Now we have theories, we learned how they arrived, so we try to apply them. Okay, how did those theories applied? Okay, what are the inventions or interventions? For example, uh, the theory of mind by Aaron Beck was applied in the form of cognitive behavior therapy. Okay, or the inventions like signal detection theories used to train pilots or stuff like that, or radar signal readers. Okay, so this is how we apply theory to real life, or we try to apply the theory that we arrived from experiments of reality to other parts of reality. So yeah, that's what we are basically doing in deduction. Now coming to the level 3, that is evaluation. Now, knowing theory how it's applied is not good enough. You should also know if that theory is actually logically valid or not. Is it true? Is it false? What are its, what you call it? drawbacks or limitations, and you have to improve upon that. You have to make judgment. Okay, this theory is good or this theory is better than others. So you have to kind of make those types of judgments. So okay, now we are coming to the inductive teaching. How do we teach inductively? Before I talked about how do you learn inductively in the present scenario, now I'm going to talk about how do you teach inductively. So before I go into that, I will focus on the role of a teacher. So what is the role of teacher? Basically, a teacher is someone who makes a student think or understand about reality. Obviously, partially because a teacher can only focus on a certain aspect of reality. That's why we have our teachers for different subjects. And a teacher basically teaches others how to understand reality in a way he understood it themselves. He kind of showcases his process or his thinking in front of others. So they transfer their knowledge and skills to students. Caveat is that a teacher can only teach up to the level they have understood things themselves. So a bad teacher is someone who has not understood things themselves and they are not able to present their case properly. So that's the issue. Now we are going to come to the level one of induction. Okay. So we first focus on the method of the researcher. We start with their problem. A problem is a gap between mind and reality. What were they thinking? What were they trying to find out? A problem can be, okay, uh okay, why does sun goes from east to west? That could be a problem because I don't know. It happens, I can observe it, but why it happens? Okay, motive. Now problem helps you to derive at a motive because the motive is to solve the problem. Okay, now context. Context may be the previous knowledge the researcher has or their timeline, what kind of theories were available to them, what kind of knowledge they had, what was the historical scenario around them, and questions. A researcher has to raise a variety of questions depending on their observations, and that leads to going and looking for more evidence or the observations, and then it form a form of experiment. Oh, experiment is basically a method to find cause and effect relationships between things. In psychology, you don't necessarily use experiments. You might use other methods as well, survey research, qualitative methods. But overall, we are trying to find causality. That's the main purpose of research. And the findings. What kind of conclusions you came from your experiment. So you can start directly from evidence. Main thing is evidence, the experiment, and the findings of the researcher. Okay. Then we come to the reasoning part. Now we mention the key concepts, their definitions. What are the examples of those concepts? From the findings, we try to find what kind of argument the author makes, what kind of conclusion he comes to, and the diagrams, descriptive diagrams like diagrams about what kind of structure they observed. Example of descriptive diagram might be structure of brain, in your biology books. That is an example of descriptive diagram. Okay, now we come to the deduction. In deduction, what we do is we try to find derivations, mathematical derivations of the formulas, new examples of the same concepts, functional diagrams or schematic diagrams, basically. So in biochemistry, those are schematic diagrams, like one thing led to other, then to next. So you start to form a diagram from arrows from one concept to another. Okay. Applications. How those things are applied in reality. How those concepts or theories that is gained from reality is applied to the other parts of reality. Okay. Then the last part is level 3 evaluation. Okay. So what are the implications in the long term in future if we use the same methods that we are using based on a particular theory? What will it will lead to? What will be the consequences? Okay. Philosophical lineage. What kind of philosophical system it belongs to, the theory belongs to. What was the philosophical premises of the author? We have to kind of infer that. Then we try to do original thinking. We try to find, okay, does the theory match the evidence by looking at the evidence ourselves? Okay, is there any error? Is there any contradiction in the theory? Okay, if there is error and you know the what is the good, you know what is the bad, then you try to form your own theory or you modify it. You're like, okay, this is how this theory can be better, and that's all you do in evaluation. So you have to go in levels, and obviously you can't go it in the one go. It's a long term process, so you might go into the level 1, then you might go into level 2 or level 3, or you might go into each of these level in a smaller parts. So that's all we have. And thank you for watching. In the next series, I might cover, okay, what are the study skills and how I'm going to cover them. What is study skills are needed to actually educate yourself in any subject whatsoever. So thank you for watching and bye bye.